670,000 pounds. That's not the weight of his ego, it's what he has to pay for his bogus defamation lawsuit. It's the cost of his ego. 670,000 pounds. That is a lot of dawa donations going straight into the pocket of Douglas Murray. If you're a Mohammed Hijab fan, you might as well start paying your zakat directly to Douglas Murray, because that's where your money's going for a long, long time. What can I possibly say about Mohammed Hijab that hasn't already been said about the Hindenburg? At least the Hindenburg didn't try to take down a bunch of its fellow Zeppelins when it went down in flames. Mohammed Hijab, by contrast, wants everyone to know that if his Dawa career is over, he's taking the whole Dawa circus down with him. So, why the total implosion? And why now? And what can we learn from this Dawa dumpster fire that never gets put out because of the endless careers that keep it burning? We're about to find out. But first, let's make sure everyone's up to date. Just a few months ago, Mohammed Hijab was exposed for his now infamous hotel wife scandal. We eventually found out that Hijab had a team of 75 Dawagandists conspiring to destroy a woman's life, all because she wanted to warn other Muslim women about how the Dawa Diddy gangs are treating Muslim women behind the scenes. The truth came out, and the credibility of dozens of Hijab's allies has been shattered. As if that weren't bad enough for Team Dawa, we now have Douglas Murray bragging about his victory over Mohammed Hijab. Yes, after being thoroughly humiliated by a woman, Hijab has been humiliated again, this time by a gay man half his size. Murray writes, 3 years ago, I wrote a column in this magazine about some of the downsides of diversity. At the time, there had just been serious disturbances in Leicester. Yes, Americans, it's pronounced Leicester. It's where John Merrick, a.k.a. the Elephant Man, was born. Between local Hindus and Muslims. One of the people who decided to throw himself into the middle of that trouble, hopefully not in the Al-Zut sense, and to try to make things worse, was an online pugilist known as Mohammed Hijab. Hijab had already been filmed intimidating Jews in Golders Green and whipping up a crowd of masked men outside the Israeli embassy in London. In Leicester, he chose to make a derogatory speech about Hindus to a crowd of men and then picture himself leading a Muslim patrol in the city. Say it ain't so, Mohammed Hijab. The Dawa champ wouldn't stir up hatred against Jews and Hindus, would he? And if he did, this big, strong Dawagandist wouldn't run to British courts begging them to protect him from criticism like a sniveling little coward, would he? After I pointed this out, Hijab tried to sue me and The Spectator. I retained the excellent Mark Lewis as my lawyer, and for years, along with the magazine's brilliant legal team RPC, we watched Hijab perform every known legal and rhetorical contortion. Hijab's lawyers repeatedly dragged out their case, avoided every opportunity to drop it, and insisted not only that what I had written was untrue, but that Hijab had suffered serious emotional and mental distress. Poor guy seems really fragile, as well as financial loss as a result. Hijab seemed to think that he could use the courts not just to pursue me, but to debate me. I have to say, I would have loved to see Douglas Murray debate Mohammed Hijab, but sadly, it won't happen because Hijab won't be facing any serious debaters after this train wreck. Last month, the case was heard in London before Mr. Justice Johnson. Many of Hijab's witnesses failed to show up, claiming ill health or having appeared to have skipped the country. Hijab himself spent several days in the witness box. Why wouldn't many of Hijab's witnesses show up to testify for him last month? Because this was after the hotel wife scandal, and they realized Hijab just isn't worth defending. They don't want to get sucked into the black hole that this Dawa star has become. This week, the judge delivered his verdict. Mr. Justice Johnson found that what I had said in my article was accurate, that Hijab had hurt his own reputation more through his actions and social media posts than I could have ever done with my article, and that the number of lies Hijab told in court were so numerous that his evidence overall is worthless. So, what I've been saying for years now has the stamp of approval of a UK judge. The judgment also noted that as well as being combative and constantly argumentative when cross-examined by my barrister and the Spectator's barrister, Hijab also demonstrated a palpable personal animosity towards your columnist. To be fair, Hijab demonstrates a palpable personal animosity towards anyone who doesn't mindlessly agree with everything he says, because he's a narcissist. The judgment found that Hijab lied about events in Golders Green, which he refused to accept was a Jewish area. It found that he had lied about his demagogic and dangerous actions outside the Israeli embassy in London, that he had lied about events in Leicester, and that he had lied about, and indeed appeared to have concocted, his claim of lost earnings. These lost earnings were alleged to have come from 3 Muslim organizations, including a supplements company called Nature's Blends. All claimed to have been big readers of my Spectator column, as indeed, Hijab alleged, causing him yet more hurt was a receptionist at his local gym. Maybe he wanted her as another hotel wife. Witnesses to his alleged financial loss failed to attend court. Another, Mr. Wasway from Nature's Blends, had to try to explain his recent conviction and time spent in prison for making false court claims after staging car accidents. Yes, Hijab's star witness was a man who had been sent to prison for fraud. These guys are tactical geniuses. Douglas Murray's article continues, but I'd like to read a few hilarious excerpts from the judge's ruling right after a brief word about this video's sponsor. People like Mohammed Hijab and his fans are constantly trying to stir up hostility towards Jews, Christians, Hindus, even towards Muslims who happen to be from the wrong sect of Islam. The sad part is that they're often successful, and a lot of the people who suffer the consequences are ordinary people trying to live their lives and provide for their families. But haters like Hijab have been taking some heavy losses lately. Let's give them another L by supporting Christian and Jewish artisans who are struggling because of the economic jihad against Israel. Tens of thousands of small businesses in Israel, many of them small family businesses, fell apart in the aftermath of the attacks in 2023. This was all part of the plan of the jihadis. But there's a way to help Israeli Christians and Jews who've been caught in the economic crossfire. Artza is a company that gathers products made by small businesses in Israel, Jewish and Christian businesses, and some charities, and they send them to you in a box. Some of these small businesses only survived the past 2 years because they could sell items to people like us through Artza. You'll get candles, Israeli spice mixes, olive wood carvings, mosaic art, decorations, cosmetics, candy, games, all kinds of things delivered right to your door. So, let's not let jihadis destroy more small businesses in Israel. Sign up to receive a quarterly Artza box. Use the link in the description to get a discount and to let them know who sent you. Now, back to our good friend Mohammed Hijab and the impression he made in court. From the judge's ruling, as a witness, he, Mohammed Hijab, was combative and constantly argumentative. He sought, at every turn, to debate with counsel, responding to questions with rhetorical questions of his own, arguing his case rather than giving straightforward responses, and denigrating the character of the second defendant, to whom he bears palpable personal animosity. I am satisfied that he lied on significant issues, with the consequence that his evidence, overall, is worthless. Funny, that's exactly what we conclude whenever we watch one of Hijab's Dawah videos. Specifically, I am satisfied that he lied in respect of the event at Golders Green, the counter-protest at the Rally for Israel, the seminar on Hinduism at the Sapience Institute, his repudiation of vigilantism, his evidence as to the involvement of the Hindutva, his evidence about his choice of language in his speech, and his evidence in support of his claim for financial losses. I address each in turn. The judge indeed goes through each of Hijab's claims in turn, and he concludes over and over again that Hijab is a liar. The denial that he was using the van as a prop and his assertion that the van had nothing to do with him was untrue. Again, that is not credible. This is untrue. That is not tenable. That assertion, on the claimant's own evidence, is untrue. The claimant denied that he was aware of the throwing of eggs and bottles. That denial is not credible. Not credible. The claimant's oral evidence on this point is inconsistent with both his witness statement and what he said to the police officer. His denial of vigilantism is self-defeating. It is untenable. The claimant's account as to his basis for attributing responsibility to the Hindutva does not withstand scrutiny. The claimant's explanation is nonsensical. When asked to name anyone in the world who subscribed to the Hindutva ideology but who was not Hindu, he was able to give only one name, Benjamin Netanyahu. Even on its own terms, the claimant's rationalization does not work. Hijab made quite the impression in court, and the judge doesn't seem to be a fan. He says, "The description of the claimant as a street agitator who has whipped up a mob on London's streets and as someone who addressed an anti-Israel protest in inflammatory terms is an accurate description of what the claimant is seen to do at the rally for Israel." And now for the dismissal. The defendants are each responsible for the article, which conveys the following meaning. The claimant is a street agitator who has whipped up a mob on London's streets, addressed an anti-Israel protest in inflammatory terms, and exacerbated frayed tensions, which had already spilled over into public disorder between Muslim and Hindu communities in Leicester by whipping up his Muslim followers, including by ridiculing Hindus for their belief in reincarnation and describing Hindus as pathetic, weak, and cowardly, in comparison to whom he would rather be an animal. That meaning is a statement of fact which is defamatory of the claimant at common law. The publication has not caused, and is not now likely to cause, serious harm to the claimant's reputation. In any event, it is substantially true, and it is not materially inaccurate. The claims are, accordingly, dismissed. Dismissed. That's the judge's reaction to Hijab's antics. Let's read just a little bit more, this time from someone who was observing Hijab's behavior in court. Mohammed Hijab sat at the back of the courtroom and ate donuts. Lay off the donuts, Hijab. While his lawyer, Mark Henderson, delivered his closing submission. "You will have seen that my client is argumentative, can be provocative," said Henderson. "Some people might think that he is a bit of a smart aleck, a bit too cocky." Hijab reclined in his chair and licked the sugar from his fingers. This was Hijab's lawyer calling him argumentative and provocative, and Hijab and his donut fingers did not disappoint. Hijab acted like a schoolboy throughout last month's 4-day trial at the Royal Courts of Justice. He laughed and shouted while giving evidence. "It's an unsalvageable case, Greg. It really is," he yelled at the Spectator's legal counsel, Greg Callis, at the end of his second day in the stand, leaning over the side. I guess Hijab got one thing right. The case was unsalvageable, just not in the way Hijab thought. When Hijab was not shouting, smirking, lolling in his chair, or eating donuts, he looked at a printout of Douglas's column, the one he was suing over, with Douglas's caricature at the top. Hijab had been desperate to debate Douglas for years, and had hoped that the two would meet in court. In the end, he didn't get the satisfaction, because Douglas wisely decided not to attend. So, why is Hijab sinking like the Titanic after crashing into an iceberg named Douglas Murray? This is an example of an interesting problem faced by manipulators who get a huge following on social media. A manipulator is someone who gets what he wants in life by duping other people into doing what he wants for him. The Dawa scene is wide open for manipulators. All you have to do is convince the Ummah that you're the hero who's going to stop their children from becoming apostates, and they will give you anything you want. Attention, views, money, endless hotel wives, anything. But manipulators are affected, in turn, by the people they manipulate. A manipulator will try something and see if it works. If it works, he'll do more of it. If it doesn't work, he'll try something else and see what happens. So, Hijab conditions his followers, but they condition him in return. Think about this. The manipulator trains people to do what he wants, but the people he's manipulating are constantly giving him information about what works. He reads them and adapts. So, they're affecting him and modifying his behavior over time. The result is that he becomes more and more of whatever works with the crowd he's manipulating. So it's a kind of mutual manipulation. He's programming them to be what he wants, but they're programming him to be what they want. After years of this cycle, the manipulator behaves in a way that is most effective with his target audience. What's most effective with Hijab's target audience? Constantly lying and acting like a chest-thumping caveman. That's what works with the Dawah fans. But then Hijab, after being thoroughly conditioned to think that constantly lying and acting like a chest-thumping caveman is what works, goes into a courtroom where that behavior doesn't work at all. In fact, in a courtroom, the behavior that makes you a champion of Dawah makes you look like a lying, childish, condescending moron to everyone else. And it ends up costing you £670,000. Small price to pay for the valuable life lesson, though. So, this is what's going on in the Dawah world, not just with Mohammed Hijab, but with Dawah in general. The Dawagandists are focused on impressing their followers. But what's impressive to the Dawah fans is repulsive to everyone else. And that's why so many Dawah careers are crumbling. Mohammed Hijab is so desperate that he's trying to launch an MMA career as a backup plan. Of course, if that doesn't work out, he can always go back to his job as a part-time stripper.
It just backfired on me. It just backfired on me. This is a part of a religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah?